business owners tell themselves. So stay with me, and I'm going to talk about how not to do that. I'm Bill Utenage, and I'm the author of the Referability Roadmap. And why I want to talk about this today, because conversation came up. I was in a networking uh, function last night, and talking with someone, and we got on the topic of, they were asking me, what I did, and I was talking about, helping, local service-based businesses, generate more high quality leads by teaching them how to tap into the people that already know, like, and trust them, right? Their database and that. They're like, oh, yeah, like, oh, yeah, I already get referrals. I don't really, I don't. I'm like, oh, really? That's interesting. I'm like, what's, how much of your business is made up, from referrals from your past or current clients and your network, right? Your database, all of it. And they're like, well, I don't really know, but I do a pretty good job of getting it. One, they weren't able to be able to track that and know what what those numbers were. But when I talk about, like, that self-deception, part of it is that we understand, because in our mind we think it's like, oh, I know what a referral is. I get referrals. See, there's a difference of being able to, you getting referrals, and to be able to generate referrals, especially on a consistent basis. And so when I talk about that self-deception, if you will, is because this false sense of belief or security in something that you think that actually isn't true. And so many times now, after having talking with hundreds, if not thousands, of different local service, whether that's in mortgage or insurance or real estate, financial services, it really doesn't matter. And that's where the biggest thing comes into, is when I talk to people and start asking them questions. It's like, hey, so what does that look like, a percentage of your business? How often are you in communication, with your database, and having those conversations, with people, bringing value, to them, all of that, right? Getting in front of them, face to face with them, or voice to voice, whatever that looks like. And most of the time when I do that, people are just like going, well, it's because I do, I know I do a really good job, and they like me, they know me. And then, when they have the opportunity, they're going to refer me. And I can just tell you, and I'm going to share a story with you. And I've shared this story before. I share it because it's super powerful, and it's sometimes almost embarrassing that I share it, because it happened to me. And so I came out of the real estate world, owned a real estate business, been in real estate for now almost 20 years. Sold my ownership of my business a few years ago to my partners. Obviously, I still coach and train, work in the real estate world from that aspect of it. But it was a couple of years in my real estate business, and I went into a restaurant, and there was a couple there that I had helped them buy their home. And so they were there, they recognized me. So I went over, and I'm like, hey, how are you guys doing? They're like, oh, we're doing great. How are you? I'm like, how are things with the house? And, they're like, oh, it's great. Like, hey, we're actually selling our house. And I was just like, wow. I'm like, and this is all internal dialogue going in my head, keep in mind, because I'm thinking, it's like, wow. I'm like, oh, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm hoping that they're telling me they're selling it themselves, meaning, because I had no idea. Like, they hadn't reached out to me, and I was like, oh, are you guys selling your home yourself? Oh, no, we're getting ready to list it. With an agent. And I was just like, and I think they could tell, like, when they said that, like, maybe it's like the kind of the blood and the life kind of left my body at that point in time. And they're like, oh, Bill, it doesn't have anything to do with you. You did a great job for us. Is this like, this person, they live in our neighborhood. They're always, sending out information, to us, right? Staying in contact. They know the neighborhood. And I was just like, oh, I'm like, wow. And they're like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, so then I'm like, okay, so my next question is like, oh, so are you guys moving out of the area? No. We're staying here. We're just going to buy a bigger home. So not only, right, did they list their home with this agent, they're also buying a new home with that agent. And and for, that I was like, hey, I wished them well. I'm like, hey, I hope I hope everything works out, all that. And they could have been nice for like, hey, you did such a great job for all of that. Right. And I left there and I was like, and it was like an aha moment. It clicked on that deal where it was like, and I had what I had believed at that time of my business in my life, where I believed that I thought I had done a great job in staying in contact. Here's the self-deception piece of that, because I thought that. And the issue of it is by results, right? They love me, right? I thought they loved me and they did love me. They're just like, but see, what happened was that there was a different relationship. There was somebody else that came into their world that had a stronger relationship with them than I did. They lived in the neighborhood. They stopped by. They mailed them more on a consistent basis, letting know what's going on in the neighborhood. What all I don't know what the exact, right, because I didn't go into that. I wasn't going to be like be so crazy to go like, well, how many times do they call you to do all these things? Because but I share that with you, that story, because it's still painful and this has been years, 16, 17 years probably, that happened. I know the people's name. I can remember this because it stuck with me. And I share it with you as I've shared this story before, is that that don't deceive yourselves in thinking is because they told me they love me. They told me that I did a great job, right? Just like this person had told me, oh, like, well, people know me, I do a good job, they're going to refer me. No, not only did they not refer me, they didn't even do business with me. They did it with someone else. And the whole point I'm making behind all of this is that it's still building that relationship. It's still staying top of mind of people. And you can be the best at what you do. These people can love you. And you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I don't have to do anything. I've done enough on that front end during that transaction, especially. And this works. It doesn't matter whether you're in real estate. It works in mortgage. I have insurance clients. I mean, financial services, all of those things is that we do it. We sign the policy. It's great. And then we maybe are going to check in with them once or twice a year. Well, the challenge of that is that during that year, think about how many people that they are coming in contact with that are in that industry, that maybe start playing softball with, or their kids' soccer coach is an insurance agent, and they're having more conversations. It is up to us. It's up to you. If you're watching this video and you're a service-based business, and if you're not a service-based business, it's still, you can be owning a restaurant. It doesn't matter. Is building these relationships with people. And you're not meaning you're going to be best friends with them, but the issue is having a system in place to be able to stay connected, to be able to be top of mind for them. And I know, look, in our real estate business, and I talk about this all the time, right? Is like using this system, right? And it's this, right? Is what I call our Client Engagement Playbook. And it basically is like, this is what we're going to do. We know that we want to stay in connection with people at least 36 times a year. Just do. And I know that sounds, when people hear that, they're like, but if you build a system around, I'm just telling you, it works. It works for clients that I work with. It worked in my own business. That business that I now sold to my partners, is still doing the same thing. And 94% of that time, 3 years ago, that business was 94% referral. It probably is that or more. I don't, at this point, because the issue is what we learned to understand is that those people, those are, I talk about it. I did a video yesterday. I think it was, we talking about the gold. Those people are gold. These are people that know, like, and trust us, that have spent money with us, and they're already advocates for us. It's just our job is like, are we staying in communication with them? Are we continuing to better their lives, right? Help them solve a problem, or make their life easier or better. It's in some way. Because if we can do that, there's the difference of that relationship. Now, in that case, because I know the argument can be, is like, oh, well, Bill, that was just an outlier, on that. But I have heard that too many times from other people that I talk to, and they get upset. And we see this all the time. It's like, in any business, in real estate, it's a big, when you're driving down the road, you're like going, wait a second. I sold those people that house and their sign is in the yard. Or if you're in the insurance, it's like, these people have been a policy holder of yours for a few years, and the next thing you get a cancellation notice. And you're like, but I thought they loved me. I thought I was great. But then you go back and we look at this and gotta go, well, I didn't do a great job. And that's usually what it boils down to is I didn't do a great job in staying connected with them. It just didn't. And they forgot. I've also had shared this story as well, is how this works conversely. Is that the story that I share? The biggest one is I had a client that I had helped purchase a home, and it was probably, at that time it was probably had been 10 years. I had learned right during out of all of this where we got better of staying in contact. So this person was getting a direct mail piece from us once a month, an email. I was calling them, sent them, market updates, invited them to events that we were doing. All of this person never came to an event, never returned my call, never returned a text. Like, I knew the person still lived there because the direct mail piece was still getting delivered. Okay. Until one day I get a call from this person, and his first name is Matt. And everyone I put in my phone, I still have clients literally in this phone probably now that I had that were clients of mine 15 years ago, probably. And I've left them in there because what happens is that, so Matt calls me out of the blue one day, and I answer because I see his name, and I would answer the phone. I'm like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And he's just like, "Bill," and I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that you remember me." And I'm like, I just have a knack for that. I remember, I know where the house is. I know where, all of that. And I'm like, "Yeah, man." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." I'm like, how are things? And he's like, hey, things are great. He was like, "Hey, I'm taking a new job. I'm going to be moving out of state." I think he was moving to North Carolina. And, he goes, "I need to sell the house." He goes, "Can you help me with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, love to help you with selling the house." Anyhow, long story short, we went to the house, and I met with him, right? And then we were in the office, and, we signed the paperwork, and we were talking. I said, "Matt," "let me ask you this." I'm like, "Dude, we haven't had a conversation in 10 years since probably the closing." And I go, "Why did you decide, like, out of the blue to call me to list the house?" I go, "I'm sure that you've run into no telling how many real estate agents in that 10-year period, right?" And he's like, "Bill," he's like, "You have stayed in contact with me for that amount of time, whether you've invited me to something or an email or your direct mail and all that." He goes, "Like, who else would I have called?" You see the power of that. And again, he's like, "Hey, you did a great," and again, you can't do a crappy job and expect, even if you stay in contact with people, right? So you still got to deliver a great experience. And he goes, and that was part of it. But the part of it was 10 years of just doing this and texting him, and he doesn't get a response back. And here's what most people would do. They're like, "Heck with them. I'm just not gonna, I'm gonna quit wasting my time." Well, that wasting my time turned into a commission that I got on selling his home. It also turned into, when he was moving, to be able to help him, I found him a great agent where he was moving to, and helped him on that side of it. And that was all over, probably, if I look back of like how much like investment, like from our direct mail piece for that amount of time, maybe $200 or $300, maybe, over a 10-year period. Probably the direct mail piece was the most expensive, me taking my time to call in to do all that. But the issue was like, and I got other stories of this. These are, other members of our team kind of have the same, and other people that in my world that I've coached in this were like going like, "Hey," and everyone says, it's out of the blue. They came out of the blue. It's like, well, yes, they did. And they didn't, because you had been staying in contact with them. And like when he said that, he's like, "Hey, who else was I going to call?" Like, because I'm on it. Like, he's getting something connected with me 3 times a month, right? On average, it's 36. Ours was even probably a little more higher connection because we were doing events. And so there was communication around inviting people to events and doing all of those things. But the point I make for this, and I'm going to bring this in for a landing, is don't deceive yourself in this. Don't kid yourself and think that, because you're great and you're wonderful. And I'm not saying that you're not, but the thing about it is that people aren't thinking about you. They're only thinking about themselves, as we only think most of the time about ourselves. Okay. How is it affecting me? And the issue of it is it's our responsibility as business owners, is that if we want that those referrals, and we want those to be you can be consistent, then we have to be consistent in the activities that we do in staying in front of them and staying top of mind with people. It's our responsibility to do that. It's our responsibility to teach them, like, hey, how's the best way to refer? Like, what does that, what does that look like? And not for them to learn. They're not sitting around their house wondering like, hey, I wonder how Bill gets business. They're not thinking about that, right? For as far as they know, they think that you're getting a big fat salary from the company and a company car and a credit card and all these other things, and you're not even worried about having to go out and generate new business. The only way that they know that is we teach them. We teach them that, hey, here's how I run my business. Here's why referrals are so important. And this is the benefit by referring me, the benefit to you, right? Because I can give, 5-star service to people because I'm not out doing all this other silliness trying to, generate business. And so it's understanding that piece of it. And so if you want a copy of this, just drop the word playbook in the comment, however you're consuming this video, whether that's on YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever you're at, or on my page, doesn't matter. Drop it in there. I'll find it and I'll shoot it over to you in Messenger. But be taking a look. This is the thing, is like, today's Friday, right? So over the weekend, be thinking about your business. Look at that and say, hey, do I have a system? Is this something that I can look at and kind of go, hey, I know that I'm going to get consistent referrals because I've got this system in place that's going to lead to that. If you do, awesome. There's no doubt about it that is great. If you don't, then that's maybe something to be jumping on starting, on Monday morning, if not sooner, because the business is there. On average, everybody knows 250 people. And so in your database, if you're going to have people right now that are clients of yours or past clients of yours, depending on what industry you are, that are going to have people in their world that are going to have a need for what you do. The question is, are you top of mind for them, that they're going to actually refer you, or are they going to refer you to someone else or use someone else, kind of like my story with my folks that use the other agent. So that's what I've got for you in today's training. It was just kind of on me. Wanted to, it's Friday, but I wanted to share this with you because, again, it's just that it happens. It happens to all of us. It happens to the best of us. But the thing about it is it's controllable. We can control it by our activities of what we're going to do. So do that, get on that. If there's something I can do to help you with that, please let me know. Love to have that opportunity.